What up, what up? It's the Athletic Hockey Show for February 4th, 2026. I'm Sean Gentili. I'm here with Sean McIndoe and Frankie Corrado. Fellas, I put up the Sean and Frankie... What did Elliot say about about Danny Briere? The Sean and Frankie signal. It went up. It was effective. We're going to talk about Matvei Michkov. That continues to be a little bit of a mess in Philadelphia. Had some developments last night. Daniel Briere talking to the media. We'll get into that eventually. But the story for today, I think, fellas, and we can come in hot here, I suppose. Trade deadline, or trade freeze, rather. Pre-Olympics trade freeze goes into effect today at 3 o'clock Eastern. That's a few hours down the road for us. It seems like it's all about Artemi Panarin. He's been held out of the lineup for the last however many days. There's clearly a desire on both sides. This is from Vince Mercogliano, who's our great Rangers reporter. There's clearly a desire on both sides to get this done at some point in the next, less than 6 hours as we record here. Do we think it's going to get done? Let's start there. Can we handicap this, McIndoe? Where are we on this? We're at 5 hours and 46 minutes as I look at my clock right here.
I get why they want to get it done, but realistically, I'm not sure they need to get it done. I think they need to get it done before the Rangers are playing again after the break. Because if the trade happens today, is he going to fly out and play somewhere tomorrow night? I guess he could, but I think this is more of an after the deadline thing, which means they do have a couple of weeks. And I wouldn't be shocked if it happened, but you could see a scenario where there's so many moving pieces, and we've got to talk about the extension, and we got to talk about the no move clause, that maybe they get down to a point today where Chris Drury says, look, we're down to a couple of teams. We've got a pretty good sense of what the package would look like, but we just don't have time to get this over the finish line by 3 o'clock. So let's take a breath, take a couple of weeks. No one's going to get hurt. No one's anything like that's going to happen. So in 2 weeks, when the deadline lifts, the freeze lifts, that'll be when we announce the deal, and then we move on from there. That feels like the most likely scenario to me, but let's see how it turns out.
If you're the New York Rangers, I don't feel like the Rangers need to have the same sense of urgency to get this deal done that other teams that would be on the receiving end of this thing would need to have. Because, okay, he hasn't played since, January 26th. So if he doesn't play here, you're going to basically go 6 weeks without playing if you're Artemi Panarin. If you make a trade, if you're a team that makes a trade for him today, and he's able to play tomorrow, so he's played one game now in 6 weeks or 5 weeks. It doesn't matter that much. One game or 0 games is not going to make a difference. So if you're another team and you're dealing with the Rangers, and the Rangers want you to sweeten this thing up because they want to make the deal happen, right now, as opposed to before the trade deadline, I'd say, who cares? It's the same deal. I'm not I'm not having that massive sense of urgency to get this deal done just because you think that, I need to pay a little bit more, or I have to be the one that comes to the table. Now, the extension thing is going to be the thing that's tricky with all of this, because Panarin would probably want to go to, Florida or Tampa. How can they make an extension happen today? But there would be other teams that would be able to make it happen today. But is that okay with Panarin to go there? DGB, if you're thinking about Carolina, they've taken massive swings with Jake Gensel and Mikko Rantanen, and they both left, and they didn't take the extension. If they trade for Panarin, or if they try and get this done with Panarin, is it 3 for 3, or does he actually stick around? It feels like when he wanted to go to New York, he went there for a specific reason. I feel like Carolina is a very different place than New York City.
It is, and that was the story. When he left Columbus in 2019, everybody said, "Oh, he's going to New York. That's where he wants to wind up." Now, did he talk to other teams? Were there other possibilities? Sure, but it sure sounded like he had his heart set on New York City, the big city, and everything that comes with that. Now, there's a difference between being 28 and being 35. Maybe he's got different priorities now, but I think that he's certainly a guy that likes to have some control. And I think at the end of the day, this is going to come down to what are his priorities, because he wants to pick his destination and he wants to get an extension. Great. You have a no move clause. You have leverage. Good for a player to go out and use that leverage. But there may just not be a destination that fits both those criteria of it's one of the places he wants to go, and they're willing to offer an extension right now, because it's very, very hard to see that working in a Florida or a Tampa. So, what's your third choice? How far back is that third choice from the first couple of choices? Can we put this together? Or is this a situation where you got to go to Panarin and say, pick one or the other? Do you want to go to your very favorite place? We'll try to make that happen. Do you want an extension? Is that mandatory? That's a different set of destinations, and you're going to have to let us know which lane you want us to drive down.
So Vince, in his write-up that ran last night, he did mention a few other interesting teams outside of Florida. He mentioned Carolina, of course, but he mentioned the Kings, the Sharks, and the Caps as teams who are believed to be involved and probably have enough cap space, or certainly have enough cap space to make it work. Oh man, the Caps are interesting. I think the Caps make a lot of sense for him, not just because of the Russian thing with him and Ovechkin, because I think that's an open question as to how close they are or are not. I think he makes sense there in a lot of different ways, as a short-term addition, and then potentially as a guy who could sign for a few more years, and sort of keep that window. Like, he lines up with other players they have. I know he's older than Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he's older than Jacob Chychrun, and he's older than some of the in their prime guys that they've gone out and added. But I think he's of a type with some of the players that they've gone after over the last little bit.
And keep in mind, like, Ovi's not the only Russian that plays on that team. Like, Protas is there. He's a good player. He's a valuable asset to them. So if Ovi were to say, I'm done in a year or two, there's still going to be like a Russian wingman, if you want to call it that. The thing I think about with the Caps is Carberry. Like, very forward-thinking, offensively inclined coach who's going to use Panarin the way he's meant to be used, right? And, like, I think a lot of people would, but I kind of... that would get the juices running a little bit to think about what that match could look like between the coach and player.
I've had a couple pretty long conversations with Spencer Carberry about player usage as it relates to Alexander Ovechkin, because this is going back to the spring when Ovechkin was chasing the record, but it's kind of continued through then. And Frankie, man, I think you nailed it. I think as you look at Artemi Panarin, as productive as he still can be, he's aging, right? And he's kind of a specialty player in certain ways, even in his prime. So there are going to be concessions and adjustments that need to be made for him as he gets older, but I don't think anybody's more equipped to do that. If you're Artemi Panarin and you sign a 7-8 year extension that takes you through the rest of your 30s, well, who's a coach who's found a way to maximize a player, an offensively gifted winger, well into his 30s and into his 40s now in Ovechkin? I think the fit there, and also we have Chris Patrick saying a couple weeks ago, like, yeah, we want to go get a high-end winger. I think the fit there, in a lot of ways, outside of whether Panarin wants to go there, which I think seems like an open question, I think the fit makes a whole lot of sense. Are we surprised to see San Jose on that list, by the way?
I'm surprised to see Washington on the list. I mean, you guys are selling me a little bit, but I'm looking at this. I think the assumption, and maybe I'm too stuck in this, is that the Capitals would try to squeeze as much juice out of the stone as they could for the Ovechkin era. And then when he's done, which is going to be soon, then you could do maybe a little bit of a reset, because it is an older team. And the problem is right now, they're 5 points out of a playoff spot. If I'm Artemi Panarin, I'm not going there without an extension, because I cannot risk going somewhere and missing the playoffs. And for what should be my big showcase heading into free agency, I'm sitting on the sidelines all spring. I can't risk that. I want an extension if that's going to happen. But do I want to be the guy putting aside whether he wants to live in Washington, whatever else, do I want to be the guy who replaces Alexander Ovechkin? Do you really want to be that? Do you want to be Cam Newton coming in to replace Tom Brady? And you can say he wouldn't be that. But we know
That's like
how
a
this
pretty
works,
good. That's
right?
like a pretty good analogy, by the way. Cam Newton replacing Brady.
Like, except if Cam Newton had a 7-year contract and had to be there, and every fan is sitting there going, oh, because I mean, look, when Ovechkin's gone, probably just the natural gravity of the NHL may pull the Capitals back to the pack if they're not there already. Does Panarin want to be the guy that everyone's blaming because Ovechkin left, Panarin came in, and they've been no good since? It'd be an unfair narrative. But
there's a reason that we're not, that this interest or whatever, that this seems like a bit of a one-way street right now. There's a reason why we're not talking about Artemi Panarin saying like, hell yes, put me in Washington tomorrow. If that were the case, like it would have happened already. And I know the Caps, they have a decent stock of, young players. I know they sincerely do like a lot of the guys at the top of that, at the top of the prospect group. So I can imagine them. The flip side is I can imagine them trying to be picky about what they send back. It's not a seamless thing. I just look at the on ice fit and also the stuff that they've done over the last couple of years, which is like whether they like it or not. And they're certainly fine with it. But they're in a win now window, I think, because of Ovechkin and because of other players that they have on that team. They've done well to extend that, say through Tom Wilson's prime or whatever, the next few years. That's been the work that they've done over the last couple of years, is that they've set it up so they're not going to, theoretically, that they don't fall off a cliff whenever Ovechkin leaves. And I think that's where Panarin works, is this kind of bridge for tomorrow into 3 years from now. Is that gonna work 7 years from now? That's a whole other question. And Sean, like you said, man, there's a reason this hasn't happened already. There's plenty of stuff to question or not necessarily love about it.
Yeah,
there's a trust factor that I would have with the Washington Capitals, because if you go back to when, Backstrom's not playing there anymore, TJ Oshie's retired, and it's like the changing of the guard really happened for the Caps. And you got to think to yourself at that point, well, here we go. Like Washington's gonna bottom out, and they're gonna start the cycle again. Instead, they make a trade for PLD and they make some other signings, and they've drafted really well along the way. And furthermore to that, they've developed these guys in Hershey, and they've won, championships down there. And now they've come up, and they're still a really good team. So I think that's important to keep in mind with this Panarin thing. If it were to happen there and Ovechkin is gone sooner rather than later, I'm of the belief that, Ovi being gone doesn't torpedo this team. It actually just kind of keeps them status quo where they are. And I trust that they will make the necessary moves and develop the right pieces to keep them in the mix. I had a crazy thought at the start of the season, like at TSN, they were asking us, give us a couple crazy hot takes that could or could not come true. And my one at the time was Kaprizov and Panarin will sign with the Washington Capitals and join Ovi for like the goodbye tour. And that'll be Ovi's way of like restocking things and leaving it better than when he got it or something like that. Well, Kaprizov's in Minnesota, but maybe there's a chance that Panarin ends up there. And I don't think it's a terrible fit. And the other thing is, a lot of guys in Washington, they had success last year. A lot of guys had career years. Strome, McMichael, Protas. Not every year is going to be a career year, but I think having like a little bit of an offensive firepower kind of guy helps those guys achieve some numbers, maybe, if you can get them linked up with Panarin.
That's a hell of a prediction, man. I just want to say for the record, 50% of a correct prediction, that rounds up to one correct prediction.
No, it's not. I don't know if that's Price is Right rules. Is that Price is Right rules? I don't think though. That's McIndoe prediction rules. That's how they work.
You got to take the wins where you can get them. Sean, you were asking about San Jose.
Yeah, like 8 minutes ago, like an idiot when I just tried to like shoehorn it into a good Caps conversation. Yeah, what about San Jose?
So my initial thought is that makes a lot more sense in a few ways. It may be a more desirable location. It may be a team that's trajectory seems to fit a little bit better. I know they're a young team, and you kind of look at it and you say, well, do they want an old guy? Well, sometimes you need to bring in the veteran to help you make the next step. They've got all sorts of assets. They've got the cap space. Chris Drury, I'm sure if you hooked him up to a lie detector, would rather trade Artemi Panarin out west than within the division, where he's going to see him a couple times a year.
An Amtrak ride away. Yeah, I don't think Drury ideally would.
Here's what scares me a little bit if I'm Mike Briere. If you bring in Artemi Panarin and you have to sign him to an extension, and this would apply to a trade or even if it's a free agency in the offseason, you're going to pay him a lot of money. Artemi Panarin has been a guy, he wants to get paid. Even when he wanted to go to New York, he got a nice big chunk of change to do it. You've got a lot of young guys who are going to need contracts soon. Does this create, and we made it deep into this podcast without mentioning the Leafs, but does this create sort of your John Tavares comes to Toronto situation, where John Tavares has been very, very good in Toronto, but he came in at that $11 million number, and suddenly all the young guys were like, well, I mean, if we're giving out $11 million contracts, suddenly Mitch Marner wants that. Austin Matthews wants a little bit more. William Nylander wants a little bit more. And it becomes a situation where I think John Tavares did everything on the ice the Leafs could have ever asked for him, but I think his contract really did set off a little bit of a chain reaction in that organization as far as what the ceiling was and who was going to make what. Do you worry about that if you're San Jose? How am I going to get Macklin Celebrini signed if I just gave $12.5 million to 35-year-old Artemi Panarin?
I don't.
Is that not a fair question?
It is a fair question because we've seen it happen and the domino effect of what that can do for a team. So it is valid, but Macklin Celebrini, to me anyways, is going to be in a ridiculous stratosphere when it comes to his salary. Like it's going to be a super aggressive number. And so Panarin at, what is he, 35, coming over as a UFA, I don't think it pushes the needle on that number for me anyways. And
the Sharks would probably love to sign Macklin Celebrini for whatever they're going to sign.
Right.
They would love. Yes. They would love to sign Celebrini to the Panarin contract.
Celebrini going to be an $18 million player, right? Like, is he not? Like, it's going to be a really aggressive number. So, and right now their cap situation is so good. Anyways, like they have, like Tyler Toffoli's making $6 million. Like, there's not much going on there. They're in a good spot. I mean, I guess it depends.
Who is Marner in this scenario? Is it Will Smith?
I think it's Will Smith. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's poor Will Smith.
Like
Panarin's
projectable number is probably like under 12 million at this point. It's got to be 10.5 to 11.5. Wouldn't you think?
I think with Panarin, what it's going to be, and I've seen this mentioned in a few places, he's going to have an overall dollar value. He's going to say, as an example, I want $50 million. Now, if you want that to be over 4 years at 12.5, okay. You want to make it 5, 6, 7, I won't be around to play those years. We all know that, but that's how this game gets played, and we've seen the league kind of set a precedent by allowing the Brad Marchand contract in Florida. Maybe Panarin does the same thing. Says, yeah, go ahead, I want 4 years at $50 million. If you want to add years to that for cap reasons, go ahead. I don't care. But I want the overall number. I wonder if
you mean 5 at, what about 5 at 50?
Well, don't you mean
5 at 50, 6 at 50, whatever it is. I'll do 7 at 50. Pay me $7 million a year. And I'll be on LTIR for the last 3 years, and everybody will know exactly what's going to happen as soon as I sign the contract. But we'll all just pretend, or maybe we won't. The league has been weird about this. The league has said no sometimes and yes some other times. So who knows? Maybe it depends on the team. Maybe it depends on the scenario.
Let's not gloss over the fact that it was not the Brad Marchand contract. That was the first one that I remember that was like this. It was the Chris Tanev contract in Toronto. That is like 6 years And it's like,
Yeah.
he's not playing.
Well, he's
this year. Unfortunately for him,
definitely
such
not
a
going to be
warrior, right?
definitely not
But-
going to be around at the end of it. I'm like, I thought
And
that
there was talk though
frowned
that the
upon.
Tanev deal, they were going to go even longer, and the league said, "Don't get silly with it." And so, and the league does have to do that eventually, or
Yeah.
else every 39-year-old is going to be getting an 8-year extension. It just gets weird. So, it's interesting.
I'm really hoping we get just a replay of the Kovalchuk situation where they sign a contract and then decide it's not allowed and
sign a contract, don't approve it.
Actually, never
sign
mind.
the same contract, reapprove it. Years later, say it's not approved anymore.
God.
Take away a draft pick, give the draft pick back, and somehow the Vancouver Canucks end up paying the salary cap penalty.
Still, I find myself randomly thinking about that way, way, way too often. All right. That's a good chat. I mean, and also it went on long enough where who knows, maybe Artemi Panarin's been traded already. Who knows? Today is again the trade freeze day. We're gonna hit a break. We'll be right back. We're talking Matvei Michkov, Philadelphia Flyers, maybe some other stuff. Stick around. All right, folks, we're back. McIndoe, Corrado, Gentili here. Fellas, the Briere signal worked. He has it in his office. He answered the call. A day or two after the Matvei Michkov, Rich Tocchet stuff seemed to hit its peak, Danny Briere, who's the boss in Philadelphia, obviously talked to reporters, try to take down the temperature on all that. Here's what he said. A lot of this is from our guy in Philly, Kevin Kurz. One thing I can tell you, this is Briere. One thing I can tell you, Matvei Michkov is not going anywhere. Let's make that clear. That's one thing he said. A second thing he said, Tocchet and Matvei have a good relationship. Sometimes they're fiery. When you're not winning, things are done and said, but they always come back to the table and want what's best for this team, and Rick wants the best for Matvei. Rick knows how important he is to the future of the organization, and he wants to make it work. This is obviously, guys, we'll do a quick recap here, I suppose. This is obviously in the wake of a season where Michkov came into camp, maybe not having trained as hard as he typically had in the offseason, comes in out of shape. Tocchet clearly noticed it. It's been an issue. It's reflected itself in its minutes. It's reflected itself in its usage. It's reflected itself in the way Tocchet talks about Michkov publicly, which is something that bubbled up again a couple days ago, which was the reason for the Briere signal from Elliott to go up in the first place. And here we are. So Frank, we'll start with you, I suppose. What do we think of the situation overall, and what do we think of what Briere did yesterday to try to get his arms around all of it?
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. I will say this. Two things can be true. Players want to be coached. They want guidance. They want to have hands-on communication with the coach. They want all that. Now, with this Mitchkov situation, the other thing that can be true is sometimes you also have to build the player up a little bit. Even though guy came into camp out of shape, there's no excuse for that. It's over though. Like he's a young player, and I think sometimes these guys they need to be convinced, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's the way it always was, but it might be the way it is now, and it could be the way it is with this specific player. So with that being said, Matvei Michkov comes into camp out of shape. It's difficult to catch up to everyone who was already in shape and now progressing with the season, because those guys are all a little bit faster. They're into their, hockey lungs a little easier. And this guy's trying to get up to like even par. Everyone else is making birdies now. This guy's just trying to get to even par. So that's the challenge for Michkov. And it's not like he's, a really high IQ, veteran kind of savvy player who can overcompensate for being out of shape because he's going to think his way around the ice. I think of like guys that were the most intelligent players like Barkov or Bergeron or Kopitar, right? Like those guys could think their way around the ice. He can't do that yet. He's got to do it with his legs. He's got to do it with his skill. So he's constantly playing catch up here. It's a tough spot for Tocchet because he's got to coach him. He's got to hold him accountable, but he's also still has to find a way to build him up. So it's not a great situation. And you have fans planning, fire Tocchet chants on Twitter at 19 minutes to go in the first period last game. So it makes sense that Briere is out there, and I appreciate the fact that like he's trying to get ahead of it and talk to the fan base and put the fire out. So good on him for doing that. But I think and this is my final, kind of concluding thought on this, is the reason why this is such a big deal in Philadelphia is because they are starving for a highly skilled player like this. They have a lot of redundancies. They got guys that work hard. They got guys that have a certain ceiling. This guy's almost like, we almost don't know how good he can be offensively. And they need him to work out, because if he doesn't, the rebuild is right back to where it's been for a long time. And that's why this is such a massive deal in Philadelphia.
I gotta say, maybe this is just me. I did find it very funny that you've got a player who is apparently out of shape and or at least came into camp out of shape and overweight. And the GM says, "Well, the thing about him is he always comes back to the table." Yeah, we know, Danny. That's apparently the problem. A little too much time spent at the table. The thing that really shocks me on this is Mitchkov, not this time around, but back in November when we kind of last did all of this, he talked about his offseason and basically said, "I took 4 months off. No hockey, no nothing." I mean, he basically did the 1970s NHL thing where you just don't do anything in the summer and then you show up and you work it off in camp. And I guess I get it to an extent where, I mean, this kid's been through a ton over the last few years. I can absolutely see that at some point he was going, "I need a break from this." But I guess maybe this is my question of Frankie. How does this happen? How does a team allow that to happen with any player, let alone a guy that you've sort of built the future of the franchise around? How hands-on are teams? How, wouldn't this kid have been given, a workout plan, something for the off season? And for him to just walk in and go, "Yeah, I haven't done anything in 4 months." What's going on? Is that a surprise to the team? Did they know? Were they okay with it? Is this a situation where they told him, "Go ahead and take the time off," and now that it's not going well, he's getting thrown under the bus? Or were they as surprised as I was to hear that an NHL athlete apparently did nothing for 4 months?
No, they would be surprised. You know how competitive guys are now? Like, jobs are on the line every single year. There's more and more young guys. There's more opportunities. So it's not like they're going to sit there and hold his hand and FaceTime him every day and be like, "Hey, Matvei, it's 8 a.m. Are you at the gym yet?" Like, they're not going to do it unless he's at their facility. Unless he makes the decision to say, "I'm in Philadelphia all summer and I'm going to train at the facility," but can't necessarily force him to do that at this point. So yeah, it would come as a surprise. I'm sure you're going to have check-ins, but how easy is this? DGB calls me. "Frankie, you in the gym today?" "Oh yeah, Coach DGB. Really good workout today." "Oof, yeah, okay. Okay, great job, buddy. Keep us posted." "Okay, DGB. Bye." Like that, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Unless you're there, unless he's at the facility, or unless you have someone there wherever he is training, there's a trust factor that needs to be there.
At a certain point, you got to just move on past the offseason stuff, though. I get it. It was a disaster. Dude's 20 years old or whatever. He tried to see if he could get away with it. He did not. Underline it, whatever. Like, that's where we are. You hope it doesn't happen again. I guess lesson learned, I suppose. It's just wild to me that this is still. I'm Frankie. I'm on your side. I'm of the same mindset with you on this. I get it. Guys want to be coached. Guys need to be coached. At a certain point, though, it's like Tocchet's on he's doing a podcast at a charity event, and Michkov is still catching strays for being out. It's like, okay, it's February. Like it's high past time for everybody involved, Mitchkov, Tocchet, the organization, to have gotten their arms around all this. Because yesterday and the day before, I follow way too many Flyers fans on various social media accounts or various social media sites. I mean, this was a 10 alarm fire for them. It was incredible how big a deal this turned into. And it should be, I get it. They've gone in the tank over the last couple weeks, but this is like the reset. This is the point, everybody's about to have a few weeks off to train or hang out or do whatever. Like, this is, and all Flyers fans are going to do now is talk about this for another 10 days or 14 days. It is a situation that it had already been toxic to some degree, and it was on the verge of turning into like a 3 Mile Island nuclear meltdown over there. Wow. Over what? He came into camp in bad shape, and now he's playing 14 minutes a night. Like, figure it out, because from the outside, just play. Everybody get over it. Like, the coaching staff, the front office, Mitchkov, the fan base. Like, you got to move on, because this is really on the verge of spinning out of control for them.
Well, guess what? Now Mitchkov has an opportunity for a mulligan. Because everyone's going to take off. Some guys are going to be playing at the Olympics, and the rest of the league is going to take a bunch of time off. Guys will take, however many days completely off of doing anything. Then they'll get back in the gym. Then they'll get back on the ice. There's going to be like a reset here to see who's got their legs coming out of this break. This is Mitchkov's opportunity to be like, okay, I feel bad that I didn't come into camp in shape. I'm going to work out this whole time. I'm on the ice. I'm working out. And when the puck drops on February 26th, I'm flying and I'm ready to go. I think that's going to be a pretty revealing moment. Those games right after this break will be revealing as to how Mitchkov attacked this last break, considering the summer, he didn't do enough to get himself in shape.
Yeah, and in the meantime, he's the man who invented being lazy during the offseason. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk? We should. You know what? Let's make it a Russian winger trifecta. Since we've talked about Panarin, we've talked about Michkov. We'll close on this. It's Nikita Kucherov, fella. I think he's starting to figure it out. He had 4 points last night in Tampa's 4-3 win over the Sabres. That's a sneaky important game, let's say. Tampa 18-1-1 in their last 20, also pretty good. The stats coming out of that related to Kucherov are incredible. In the calendar year of 2026, we're 4 months and a couple days, or a month and 4 days in. 11 goals, 28 assists, and 39 points since New Year's. How does that work?
Dude, you want to know how that works?
Yeah, I do. Can you tell me?
Three 4-point nights in your last 5 games.
That'll do her.
And the other ones that aren't 4-point nights are 2-point nights. This guy's unbelievable, but this is nothing new. Like, this is, this didn't come out of nowhere. Nikita Kucherov has been this, but he's gone nuclear here the last little while. And Tampa, it's funny. Like, last night I was on the desk doing Senators Carolina, right? And we're all talking about, could this be Carolina's year? And it's like, no, Florida. Florida's not going to be in your way. That's an issue for Carolina with the way that they play. And then you're like, knock, knock, Tampa's back. And there's Kucherov, and he's got another 4-point night. And it's like, oh yeah, Tampa, they will punch you. They will shove you. They will do all that kind of stuff that Florida does. Maybe not to the same level that Florida does, but you're like, as soon as one door closes, the other one opens, and Tampa's back in the mix, and there's Kucherov right in the middle of it.
And you're just hoping, if you're Carolina or anyone else who has any hope in the Eastern Conference, that he's just getting this out of his system now. Like an all-time heater, better in January and February than April. But I mean, this is crazy. This is, we're on, week 5, almost week 6 of Wayne Gretzky numbers. Dom had a very funny post where he's, saying that Kucherov
first time for everything.
Yeah. Got him. He was saying he was at like a 213 point pace, and he's like, "Well, so is this just what Wayne Gretzky did all year in the 80s?" And yeah, as the old guy, I'll tell you, yes, this is what it was, but this was the 80s. To do this in 2025, 26 is wild. I all respect to Wayne Gretzky, but those goaltenders, those stand-up goalies, and those defensemen whose idea of gap control was, I'll just back into my own goalie's crease as soon as Gretzky comes over the blue line and let him whale a slap shot from the circle. For Kucherov to be doing it now, it's wild. And I got to say this is a staple of the takes industry.
Mhm.
Nikita Kucherov.
Here in the take minds, we all are.
Underrated?
Yes.
Underrated? I mean,
Underrated,
he's
really.
Two scoring titles in a row. And now he's doing this. Like, are we going to look back and go like, man, I mean, McDavid was amazing. McKinnon was amazing, but we didn't appreciate Nikita Kucherov.
You know who
I think
doesn't
that's the
underrate
word.
him? You know who didn't underrate him? The Oilers, the Sabres on that game tying goal by Darren Radish yesterday. He gets the puck like at the top of the circles, like the obvious terror in their games at that moment. He just the gravitational pull of Kucherov over on the circles. I think me and DGB could have scored on that.
I think that's the word right there, DGB. Underappreciated. Maybe not underrated, but underappreciated for how good, how dominant can be, because he does it differently than McKinnon and McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, he doesn't storm down the ice and with that intensity or that ferocity with the big galloping crossovers. He moves, like he shakes and bakes, but he is almost slithery in the way that he conducts his business. So optically it looks different. But I think you're right. Like, underappreciated more than underrated for sure.
71 points in his last 32 games. This is from Jay Fresh. This is it. Frankie will let you go after this. 71 points in his last 32 games, Kucherov. 15 players in the entire 2014-15 had more points than that. His last 32 games would have put him in 15th in scoring in 2014-15. Good God. What are we doing here?
2014, 2015, I think I played against Kucherov in the minors.
How'd that go?
I'm pretty sure he was torching everyone in the minors. Yeah.
Where are you the next couple of days? I've lost track
am?
of you once again. You're in Toronto.
No, but I'm in Philly for the game, for the Sens game
tomorrow.
Going right into the beast of Philadelphia. Sens, Flyers, and then a little bit of a break for the Olympics.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, brother. I guess.
Yeah, you guys too.
It's not like that much of a break. We'll talk to you next week. We'll have our Olympic preview spectacular. You get a break from TSN, but not us. Lots of fun.
No, we got the Gino Reda hits to do. We got that's hockey.
We don't give time off, man. That's what the off season's for.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can go on the Mitchkov plan in the summer, but we got you until then.
Yeah, and then we get to make fun of you and yell at you for 6 months after that. That's how it works.
Exactly. Okay, boys, have a good one.
Talk to you next week, bud. All right, there goes Frankie, Sean McIndoe. What have we learned other than the fact that my headphones didn't work for the first 25 minutes of the podcast?
That wasn't really a learning thing. That's we're used to that.
Issue. Yes.
We're used to adversity around here.
What have we learned, Sean?
Speaking of adversity, kind of, maybe not really. I learned that I guess birds are hockey fans, or at least Islander fans. I don't know if you saw this, but during the Islanders game last night, they scored a goal while Bo Horvat was being attacked by a bird, which is not something you see very often.
It was an attack. Did that pass the threshold of an attack,
was
it more of an encounter?
You know, in today's hockey, that counts as an attack. You know, back in the old days, that would have been nothing.
Okay.
Today, it counts as something. But yeah, Bo Horvat had to, get a bird out of the way before he threw the puck in front for what turned into a goal. And that is, it's been a while since we've had.
When was our last
live animals on the ice? I mean,
live animals.
And it went a lot better for the bird than it went for the bat back in the Fog game way back when, and it went better than it went for the live chicken that got thrown on the ice in an LA Kings game in the 80s, which then proceeded to
I learned about that from you.
But I feel like I'm the only one who brings it up, and I'm going to continue to, because it was that that was a staple of like the VHS blooper industry for a couple of years there. That's how we used to get our information. Like this is everybody's watching like the YouTube clips of the bird this morning, or like Bo Horvat mic'd up the Islanders social media put out. It used to be you wouldn't know about this stuff until like 2 years later when you got like the wackety dackety hockey pictures on VHS for Christmas. And then you'll be like,
bought it out of some guy's trunk. Like,
yeah, exactly. And they'd be playing Benny Hill music and there'd be a bird on the ice and you'd go, okay, that's pretty cool. But yeah, shout out to the bird who apparently seems to be okay. And shout out to Bo Horvat who didn't let it distract him from putting a big goal on the board.
This bird takes its spot on the Mount Rushmore of bird encounters during hockey games. It cannot push out the Bakersfield Condor situation. Yes, you remember that?
Right.
That was a big day on the internet, baby. We're not going to get into it, but if anybody,
was a good one.
wants to check it, I think both of us wrote multiple things about that one. I learned, Sean, just how much NHL players seem to like Houston. That was a big part of our player poll, part 3 or whatever it is. It's live on the site now. Bunch of good nuggets in there about a whole host of topics. Houston, though, runaway winner for the players pick for the next spot to get a team. There were 118 guys polled for this. 48 of them said that Houston should be the next spot, which is that a surprise? Like, not really. It's a big city. It's in a warm climate. No state tax. That's clearly the sort of stuff these guys care about. But man, 48 out of 118. That's almost just a straight up majority. And I don't know, man. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean,
am I wrong here? Does that number feel right to you?
I wonder how much of it is just players trying to give the right answer. And, I think Houston has had a ton of speculation around it, a ton of talk about them being the next team. Not as much maybe recently as Atlanta. So maybe that's the surprise, or maybe it's just the novelty factor. We've tried the Atlanta thing a couple of times. There's players in this league who played in Atlanta. Or at least as a visitor, so maybe they kind of feel like, hey, it's time to try something new. But yeah, it certainly seems like that's where it's headed. Maybe a mild surprise we haven't gotten more traction on it actually happening quite yet, but feels kind of inevitable at this point.
48 players said Houston, 25 said Quebec City, 15 said Arizona, just as a blanket. Most of them mean Scottsdale. I think we all know that. 9 said Atlanta. Then there's a bunch below that.
That's the surprise to me, is that Atlanta is that low. I mean, Quebec City will always get. I can probably guess what the passports look like for every player who say Quebec City. But
not going to happen.
How many you've got in front of you? Did anybody say Toronto as?
Yeah, 2 said Toronto.
Okay. So there are 2 players who pay attention to the financial side of this league and actually want the cap to keep going up.
2 said Toronto, which is one more than the amount of players who said not Toronto.
Okay.
One person's specific vote was not Toronto, and it was
so Keith Pelly snuck in as it got a vote into the players poll. That's cool.
Yeah, I was going to say this is Yarmo K or Terry P submitting anonymous votes. I love the one vote getters too. By the way, we had Lake Tahoe, we had Montreal for a second team, not Toronto, Paris, San Antonio. Interesting choice there, and then my favorite, Miami. we know that outside Fort Lauderdale, which is where Sunrise is not quite the same as South Beach, but second team in South Florida. Good luck.
Do it again, baby.
Sean, what are you doing this week? I saw your post. You had a post go live this morning that made me feel extremely bad, talking about the guys who missed the Olympics in their
that's
who
what I
missed
was
their
going
Olympic
for.
window over the last 12 years. It was a personal affront to me who's like, I'm like the same age as a lot of those guys.
I've already had feedback from people saying that it ruined their morning. Yeah, I've just got to
really?
look at
Great.
10 players who have never played in an Olympics and are not going this year, in some cases active, in some cases retired, where I make the case that they would have been there in 2018 or 2022 if the NHL had gone. And but because they didn't, we never got to see guys like, for example, Claude Giroux play in the Olympics. Never happened. There's other guys on the list who, maybe they got to play in a World Cup. Certainly a lot of them got to play World Championships, but they would have been there if we had gone to the Olympics. And because we didn't, it sure looks now like that window is closed, and we're never going to get a chance to see these guys on the very biggest stage, which is kind of a bummer.
Just glad Chris Kreider got his Four Nations face-off moment,
Yeah, that was big.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, folks. Thank you for listening, as always. But before you go, we want to let you know the Athletic Football Show with Robert, Dave, and Derek have got your daily episodes and your video breakdowns lined up from Radio Row in the lead up to Sunday's Super Bowl in Santa Clara, I believe, plus a big recap episode straight after. So check those guys out. Love the Athletic Football Show. Love my man Dave Hellman. Check it out. Enjoy the games. We got 10 tonight, and then of course we all go into Olympic mode. We're coming back next week, the three of us, next Tuesday for an Olympics preview. And Shannon Goldman and I are back with the normal show tomorrow because Haley is somewhere in Italy. Unclear on where exactly. Maybe we'll get an update from her, maybe not. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.